Okay, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to completely rethink how we look at the business world. Honestly, forget the old school idea of seeing a company as a static, boring flowchart pinned to a wall. We're throwing that out. Instead, we are going to look at an organization as a living, breathing ecosystem. It's an organism, and just like any organism, it literally has to adapt, react, and evolve if it wants to survive. Now, to make sure we're building this on really solid ground, we're drawing our blueprint today directly from a fantastic academic lecture on contemporary management. This is by Professor Assistant Dr. Elvis Elazai at the University Haji Zeka. So you know we are working with top-tier, rigorously researched insights today to build out this whole framework. So here's our roadmap. We are going to build this organism module by module. We'll start with the concept of organization, move right through authority and delegation, design and structure, culture and human resources, the dynamics of change, and we'll wrap it up with stress and conflict. All right, section 1, the concept of organization. Think of this as building the skeleton. So what does it actually mean to organize? When we merge the insights of management experts like Jones, George, and Griffin, we find out that organizing is a highly adaptable mechanism. It's a dynamic, systematic arrangement of tasks and resources. It's an active process where managers group human and material resources to coordinate people and align perfectly with a constantly shifting competitive environment. It is definitely not static. A solid organizational structure actually reduces ambiguities, it cuts down on conflict, and it actively builds up the capacity you need to hit those big strategic goals. Moving on to section 2, authority and delegation. If the structure is the skeleton, this is the nervous system. Look at the really sharp contrast here between authority and responsibility. I want you to picture your own boss for a second. Authority is the legitimate right to make decisions, sure, but in a contemporary setup, it is fueled by expertise, information, and trust, not just a formal title on a door. Versus responsibility, which is the strict obligation to be accountable for the results, and that even touches on ethical and social dimensions. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is this. In a modern framework, you literally cannot have authority without responsibility. They are a package deal. And then there's delegation. Let's be real, delegation often gets a bad rap, like you're just dodging work. But it's actually a vital strategic reflex. By executing these 4 steps, transferring operative authority while still maintaining final accountability, you completely empower the lower levels of your organization. This increases overall efficiency, builds talent, and, incredibly, speeds up decision-making at the ground level. But of course, doing that requires immense trust and really smart non-bureaucratic control systems to work properly. All right, section 3, design and structure. This is how we shape the organism. You know, the thing about organizational design is that it's never just a one-time act. You don't just set it and forget it. According to contemporary literature, it is a constant, ongoing process of reconfiguration to hit these key goals. Whether a company uses traditional functional divisions or those modern matrix networks, the structure has to constantly adapt to match its strategy and its technology. The ultimate targets: maximum organizational flexibility, driving innovation, and enabling a really rapid reaction to external changes so the company can actually survive long-term. Which brings us to section 4, culture and human resources. This is where we get into the soul and the mind of the organization. Now, this is where things get really fascinating because we have a bit of a clash in academic views on company culture. On one side, management expert Griffin views culture as a stabilizing factor, basically a shared system of values and norms that keeps everyone on the same page. But on the flip side, the postmodern view from researchers like Boje sees culture completely differently. They see it as a plurality of competing narratives. This suggests that culture isn't just one homogeneous top-down system. Rather, it's a collection of diverse, sometimes competing voices that give the organization its true, complex character. Because culture is so dynamic, modern HR is on this constant, ongoing quest for the perfect person-organization fit. They do this through recruiting, skill development, performance evaluation, and talent retention. HR is a deeply strategic function today. In fact, postmodernists actually criticize the instrumentalization of the individual. So in a contemporary setting, HR's true job is meant to empower voices and identities and genuinely develop talent rather than just administering people as if they're interchangeable cogs in a machine. Okay, section 5, the dynamics of change, adaptation and evolution. Balancing control and flexibility is incredibly delicate. Formal control relies on things like budgets and rigid standards. Informal control, however, leans heavily on shared culture, norms, and self-control. Interestingly enough, that postmodern critique we talked about warns us that sometimes control is just a discourse of power that gets legitimized by fancy managerial language. It's a really powerful reminder for leaders to keep control mechanisms grounded in actual necessity, so they don't accidentally stifle the organization's flexibility. And since organizational change is totally inevitable, it's continuous, and honestly, it's almost never linear, the manager's role is absolutely critical here. A manager has to be a communicator of vision, a manager of resistance, and a facilitator of learning. A manager's true job during change is to guide the emotional and perceptual journey of the employees through the fragmentation. They have to be the anchor when the ecosystem inevitably shifts. Finally, we reach Section 6, Managing Stress and Conflict, the organization's immune system. Every organism faces disease, and in the workplace, these are your pathogens: high uncertainty, a crushing workload, role conflict, and a complete lack of control. These triggers lead directly to low performance, decreased engagement, and real, tangible physical health issues. The contemporary cure for this kind of burnout doesn't just happen by itself. It lies in better job design, robust organizational support, and facilitating a genuine work-life balance for the people inside the system. Now, I want to stop for just a second and ask you this directly. Is workplace conflict always a bad thing? We usually naturally assume that a peaceful, totally quiet office is a productive one. But is that actually true? Well, according to Griffin's approach, there are actually two very different types of conflict. Dysfunctional conflict, which you see on the right, is what we all usually fear. That's the stuff that severely damages teamwork and collaboration. But on the left, we have functional conflict. This type of friction actually sparks brilliant new ideas and drives innovation. So the goal of a modern manager isn't to just blindly eliminate all friction, but to constructively manage it. You manage it to build immunity, create resilience, and drive that innovation forward. Which leaves us with this final thought. In a constantly changing environment, is your organization ready to adapt, or is it resisting the future? I want you to look at your own workplace as a living, breathing organism today. What step will you take next to help it adapt and thrive? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Until next time, keep learning, keep adapting, and definitely stay curious.